Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order of the Monroe County Personnel Administration Committee. This is our meeting for Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 at 12 noon. We're going to start off by asking the members of PAC to unmute just so that we can record that you are here. We'll start with Councilor Spoonmore.
Here. And
Councilor Hawk.
Here.
Thank you very much. We have a total of 4 items or 6 items technically on our agenda, 2 of substance today. And the first one is a report that we are receiving, and a eagerly awaited report from Wagner Irwin Sheely towards, or commonly known as WIS, towards job description and salary compensation report. We know that this is very important. And before we get into this item, I wanted to just say off the top, this is a big report. There's a lot of material, a lot we're going to learn today, and all of the, thank you, Councilor Hawk, she's showing us, and all of the individuals that are on this call and beyond will want time to look at this report, not to mention the other members of the Monroe County Council who are not here. And so this today is a start of introducing this topic to us. This is a process by which we can maybe ask some questions today, but then later get some further details about that as we digest all of this and anticipate what we do from this report moving forward, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and get started then. We'll go ahead and move into this item number 2. And with us, I believe we've got Allison Collins and Addie Rooker from WIS. We welcome you. We appreciate this report and your diligence for our community and our county. And unless staff has other ideas, I think we'll turn it over to you at this time to present this report.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having us today. First of all, we would like to thank all the department heads that have put the time in and providing all the information to us for the job descriptions, answering our phone calls, as well as working with Kim and Margie and helping us get the information we needed to move forward with a lot of these steps. So without all of your help, we wouldn't be where we are today. So what we're going to do today is walk through the report materials. We've got some new compensation grids, the pay plans, and then a maintenance plan as well to walk through. So we will kind of hit the highlights, not read to you everything, but highlight the areas we think we need to be stressed, and then we will answer questions as well. So we'd like to start with the summary report. We were engaged by the county to conduct a job classification and compensation study. So the objectives included conducting meetings with each department head or elected official via Zoom or conference call, and that was taken part with the council administrator, and the personnel administrator was part of those. We conducted 29 individual Zoom meetings overall, collected job information, not only from existing questionnaires, but from those interviews. We prepared new job descriptions. I believe most department heads, employees saw their job descriptions 2, maybe 3 times. It was a very comprehensive process and going back and forth. So all the job descriptions are updated and accurate as of today. Second objective was to classify and point factor all the job descriptions using the factor evaluation system by job category. We collected external salary data and conducted an external salary analysis that we'll go over here in a little bit. We conducted a salary or a FLSA analysis of each position, designating them as exempt, excluded, or non-exempt for compliance with the federal wage and hour rules. And then we prepared updated compensation grids with salary ranges reflecting that external market data. So we want to stress here with designing a new pay plan going forward, this is the council's authority. Indiana Code 36-2-5-3 does lay out the authorities and grants powers to the council for fixing the number of officers, deputies, employees, describing and classifying those positions, adopting schedules of compensation, and then hiring or contracting with individuals to assist in that process. And this is what you have done. And so this is kind of an overlying theme going apart across the report and the pay plans of the council's authority, and taking charge of this system and making it your own and owning the system. Just a little refresher on the factor evaluation system. I know a lot of you have been around and are familiar with it. Some of you may not be, so I'm just going to give a little bit of background information. The factor evaluation system is a system for classifying positions. It was developed by the U.S. Department of Labor for public sector employers. It's not a system that's proprietary to us or to any other firm, but most Indiana county governments that you have a classification system will use the FES system here in Indiana. This system sorts positions into job categories, so you're only comparing like positions to each other. So you're not comparing an administrative assistant to a truck driver, or a truck driver to a sheriff deputy. They take on drastically different duties and functions, so we've separated those into those categories. Installing the FES, basic procedures include writing job information, or collecting job information, writing the job descriptions, classifying positions, determining the factor evaluations, and then conducting the wage analysis. For the job classification system, the job descriptions are the foundation of the system. And as I stated earlier, we went through a very comprehensive process with that, and now have accurate, reliable job descriptions. There are other uses for the job descriptions outside of job classification and compensation. And I like to remind you of those because why they're important as well. And they have many other uses, including establishing the essential functions under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, establishing and documenting requirements for selection, recruitment, hiring, all training employees, establishing and documenting standards for promotion, other conditions of employment, making sure we're compliant with various government regulations, including the FMLA, Fair Labor Standards Act, Equal Pay Act, and OSHA, and establishes a set of factors for performance that department heads, supervisors can use internally for those purposes. On the bottom of page 3, we get into the job categories, and I'll just kind of touch base a little bit. Here are the job categories. Comment, these are computer, office machine operation technician. These generally have jobs that have on-the-job training, may require associate degree or some certifications. Most of these jobs are support jobs to either elected officials or to other job positions in other job categories. Just a couple examples of job titles include your recorder deputy, your child support caseworker, your legal secretary, and paralegals, just a couple examples there. Your LTC group, that is the labor, trades, and crafts. These positions involve skills and knowledge that are learned on the job. They may require special certifications or vocational school. You'll see most of these jobs in the highway department. Some sample job titles include maintenance, truck driver, park maintenance technician, equipment operator, mechanic. The next job category is PAT, Professional Administrative Technological. These positions usually require a baccalaureate degree or equivalent training and experience. They have direct application of professional principles, developing policies, procedures, administration of assigned areas of responsibility. Some examples of those titles include your financial manager, victim assistance, your support technician, environmental health specialist, personnel administrator, network operations manager, and your planners. Next, we have the merit pool. We actually have two groups of poll positions, your protective occupations, law enforcement. The merit poll, they must complete the Indiana law enforcement training to be law enforcement officers and are subject to the merit rules according to Indiana code. In this group, we have your deputies, your detectives, canine officers, sergeants, lieutenants, and your lieutenant detectives. In civilian polls, again, these are the protective occupations law enforcement. These positions are not merit officers, but they may still have to go through some specialized training through the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. But they do have specialized training, on-the-job training, usually require a minimum of a high school diploma or equivalent. Examples here include animal management officer, court bailiff, civilian process server, corrections officer, and then your jail sergeants, jail captain. Next group are your executives. Here, these are most of your department heads. Primarily, these are employees who are planning, directing, and implementing major programs for the county. Here we have examples: parks director, building commissioner, health administrator, your planning director, highway engineer, highway director, those positions. Special occupations, we have several employees that don't fit into the classification for various reasons. One example are the probation officers. Their salaries are mandated by the Indiana Judicial Conference, and those have to follow the minimum salary schedule for those positions. And we've also pulled out some other positions, and we'll get into more detail on that a little later. So moving on to page 6, once all of the job descriptions have been written, each job description was then point factored and evaluated by our factor team here at WIS and using the FES guide charts. And there was a different set of guide charts for each job group. On page 6, we've listed the guide chart factors for LTC, comment, PAT, civilian poll, and merit poll. Those include job requirements, difficulty of work, responsibility, personal work relationships, and the work environment. The guide chart factors are a little different for your executive group. We've listed those as well. Those include knowledge and skills, impact, complexity and difficulty, and then the work relationships. So once all the job descriptions were factored, in each job category, they were then placed in classification levels based on having points that were very close to each other, and then establishing those and grouping like jobs together. And you'll see that here in a little bit with the pay plans. So now I just want to move into, on page 7, just a little bit of history of the Monroe County job classification system. Monroe County has been doing this for a long time. The original job classification and compensation study was implemented in 1991. And at that time, our firm helped the county prepare job descriptions for all the positions, classified them according to the FES system, conducted an internal salary analysis, and conducted the external salary analysis. Since the installation in 1991, the County Council has been managing the job classification and compensation system. And then as requested, our firm have assisted the county in maintaining the system, either by writing new job descriptions, reviewing classification changes, making recommendations, helping with updating job descriptions, providing salary information as needed. In 2006, our firm was engaged to conduct a job classification and compensation update. So again, this involved writing all new job descriptions for all the county positions, refactoring all of the positions, conducting another internal salary analysis, and an external salary analysis as well. As part of that 2006 project, we recommended a job classification compensation maintenance plan be instituted and complied with. However, those basic rules and procedures were selectively and haphazardly followed. This resulted in, again, in 2015, we were asked to look at the system again. At that time, we reviewed the organizational structure. We did not rewrite job descriptions or refactor at that time, but we reevaluated the positions, past reclassifications, and conducted an external salary analysis, and prepared a report of findings. Again, at that time, we recommended that the classification and compensation plan be instituted and complied with. However, those basic rules and procedures, again, were selectively and haphazardly followed. So in 2020, we're here again to update the county job descriptions. We conducted an FLSA review, as I stated earlier, and then have conducted an external salary analysis. So this time around, we have found empty classification levels within the system, some job title inconsistencies, and then some instances of positions being classified incorrectly in both job classification and FLSA status. Okay, moving on to page 9, these are our internal findings and recommendations. So the first one is regarding the classification levels. Here, as I just mentioned, we found some empty classifications. So for the comment category, currently have 5 levels. We are recommending that they go to 4 classification levels to reflect the current organizational structure. There were very few positions at level 1 and level 5, so we've consolidated those. Number 2, the LTC category, you've originally had 5 classification levels. There were no positions at level 1, so we have restructured those into 4 classification levels. For the PAT category, there are currently 5 classification levels. There were only 2 positions classified at level 1. So again, the recommendation was to restructure the PAT category into 4 classification levels to reflect the current organizational structure of those PAT positions. In the civilian pool job category, currently have 7 classification levels. Level 1 was empty, and there was only 1 position classified at level 2. So we recommend restructuring those positions into 5 classification levels. In the merit pool job category, there were 4 classification levels based on the captain position being an SO position and the county wanting to keep that one. In that classification, we restructured to 3 classification levels for the merit pool. In the executive job category, there are 2 classification levels, no changes to the levels. However, the attorneys have been pulled out into a separate SO category. So you will see a different restructure there for those positions. On page 10, job descriptions. As I already stated, this was a comprehensive part, time-consuming and comprehensive part of the project. When we started the project, it was evident that there was no official record of job descriptions. There were multiple copies or versions of job descriptions floating around. Department heads may have had 2 or more different versions. They weren't sure which one was accurate. So we spent a lot of time on the job descriptions, matching job titles, matching FLSA status, because some of those didn't match the salary ordinance. And again, like I mentioned previously, most department heads did review the job descriptions 2 to 3 times. So there should be no complaints from department heads that they did not have the opportunity to review those job descriptions. Recommendations here for the council is to adopt all the job descriptions by ordinance as the official job descriptions of the county, and include specific language in the salary ordinance that states the following. 1, changes to job descriptions cannot be made without approval from the county council. Regardless of whether it's a title change, an added duty, all those should be approved so you have record of the official job description. Number 2, the council administrator shall be the official record keeper of the job descriptions. That way there's one record and we don't have these multiple versions floating around. Number 3, annual reviews of job descriptions shall be coordinated with the council administrator to maintain those official job descriptions. I know that's a regular practice that the council has and department heads conduct those updates each year, so that just needs to be coordinated so all the updates are made and then adopted as through the council. Next finding was the job class maintenance. Here, Monroe County has fell short in enforcing and following a consistent job classification maintenance plan. It was reported that department heads did not like to wait on council or follow council's procedures, so often changes to job descriptions were made anyway. There were even changes to classifications without going through the established process, or sometimes without council's knowledge. Evidence of the county selectively and haphazardly following the job classification maintenance review process was found during this project. We found instances of projects that were classified at different classification levels with no reclassification records or no documentation in the county's meeting minutes. We found instances of job title changes made internally, as well as job requirement changes made to job descriptions, meaning, now requiring a bachelor's degree instead of associate's degree, or requiring associate's degree instead of a high school diploma, some of those changes. And Allison will talk about those a little bit, but we do have a complete list for the council of those job title and job requirement changes. So again, here we want to stress for the council that under Indiana Code 36-2-5-3, the county council does have the power for describing and classifying those positions. So this is under your authority to maintain those job descriptions and have procedures for doing so going forward. So the recommendation here is that the strongly recommended the council adopt, implement, and strictly enforce a job classification maintenance plan. And taking ownership, the council needs to take ownership of the job classification and compensation system. Not doing so will result in continuing this pattern of conducting new job class studies to correct classification and compensation discrepancies. As we stated in the history, this has been an ongoing process, and these have been brought on by selective and haphazard county council maintenance. So we have an attached to this a job classification and maintenance plan that Allison will get into. It's probably one of the last things we get to today. On page 11, we have some classification changes. As I stated, as our first finding in restructuring the levels, we restructured retitle classification levels for all the job categories. So even positions may find they have a different title, but it doesn't mean they have a complete different classification. However, there were some positions that we consider to be significant classification changes, and we have listed those on page 11. And we just want to note that we are not recommending any pay cuts for positions that may result in a downgrade because of the classification change, but we have listed those here. And I have listed, we'll get into this a little bit more later, but right now you have some union highway positions, some jail positions that have been pulled out. So one of the classification changes is that we've brought them back in the classification system. So you will see that change in the pay plans. And we may highlight some of these as we go through the pay plans as well. On page 12, the next internal finding was regarding financial positions. Monroe County is uniquely uncommon in comparison to other counties in the fact with its financial positions. Monroe County has 13 financial positions across 12 county departments. Now, in most counties, the financial functions reside primarily in the auditor's office. with a handful of counties having a financial director or a financial manager to oversee county-wide financial functions. Generally, the office managers in county government are responsible for payroll and claims functions. In Monroe County, the financial functions have seen expanded roles with added responsibilities beyond the general office manager functions. Since 2006, the number of financial manager positions has increased from 5 positions to 13 positions here in 2021. As part of this project, we found 1 financial position to be classified incorrectly in job classification, and 3 financial positions with incorrect FLSA classifications, and then just an overall inconsistency in the use of job titles. We found that department heads have latched onto the title of financial manager to get positions reclassified, with providing minimal evidence to support the added financial job functions. In addition, we found duplication of functions of these financial functions among the various county departments. It was also reported that some of the financial positions regularly seek assistance with budget financial functions from either the auditor's office or the council administrator. So we have 2 questions for council based on our findings. 1, how much time is really needed to be dedicated to performing financial functions in each department? And 2, could the financial positions be restructured or consolidated to improve efficiency countywide among countywide financial operations? So here the status. We have provided the council with a offer of re-looking at the financial positions. So the council has been deliberating, conducting a comprehensive review of these financial functions and the organizational structure of the financial operations countywide. A comprehensive review of positions would include examination of assigned finance duties and non-finance duties to quantify work time devoted to these functions, review of classifications and salaries, supervisory oversight, and just an overall organizational performance of those financial functions. The next finding is regarding your compensation grids. Currently, the county has a large number of grids. We have comment, LTC, PAT, civilian poll, merit poll, exec, jail correctional center grid, union highway grid, chief deputy, highway 1, sheriff's office, and sheriff jail positions. And then for each of these, there is a set of grid for a 35-hour work week and a 40-hour work week. Your grids consist of 6 compensation steps. And while the number of steps is consistent for each of these grids, the percentage between steps and your percentage spread from the minimum salary to the max was not consistent and varies from grid to grid and from classification level to classification level. Also, your max level is currently, that step is only applicable to in-grade supervisors, which is a total of 6 positions according to the 2021 salary ordinance. You have a union highway grid that has a separate base salary and then 13 compensation steps based on years up to 45 years. And then we have a separate grid for jail correctional center that establishes a base rate for each position. And then those officers receive a 48-cent per hour increase for each year in service for the first 20 years of service. We have developed new compensation grids for comment, LTC, PAT, civilian poll, merit poll, exec, and SO attorneys. These grids have 7 compensation steps, so we've added a step, and then the percentage spread is 26.67%. established for each classification level from the minimum salary step to the 25-year step. And we'll go into a little more detail on those steps when you see the grids here. So we've added we have a minimum salary step, a 1 year, a 3 year, which is the midpoint, 8-year step, 14 years, 20 years, and 25. There are a lot of long-term employees in the county, and adding the 20 and 25-year step will better utilize the entire compensation grid and be an added benefit to some of your long-term employees. In the past, employees could only move beyond the 14 step if they were the in-grade supervisor. We have classified the union highway positions and placed them on the LTC grids for this study. This was done to ensure pay equity among like classified LTC positions. We know that there is a union contract in place. If this contract is approved going forward, the council will still have up-to-date salary information for those union positions, and in order to contract or for contract negotiations, and then those positions would just have to be removed from the LTC grids to maintain that contract. The jail positions also were placed on the civilian poll grids, again, to ensure internal pay equity among like classified positions. Overall, we found that most of those positions would benefit financially by being placed on those proposed compensation grids. However, there are still some employees who would receive no salary adjustment by making that change. The other change for chief deputy positions, with the exception to the sheriff chief deputy, we've removed those from the grids and recommend those positions be compensated at either 90% of the elected official's salary or 90% of the elected official external market average. Okay, page 14, stipends for certification pay. According to the 2021 Monroe County Salary Ordinance, there was a position, emergency management director, that was receiving a stipend for $5,000 for their CEM certification. All the job qualifications, including any certifications, have been factored in as part of the job review process. So an additional supplement stipend for certifications is no longer necessary, as it's now included in the base salary established for the position. So we've recommended for that position that this supplemental stipend be eliminated. Next is the longevity pay. Longevity pay, as you know, ensures that new hires are not paid the equal amount to senior employees in the same position. Here we just recapped the county's pay or longevity pay program. We found Monroe County to be uniquely generous in providing 2 forms of longevity pay to its employees through the longevity pay program, and also rewarding employees based on the grids, your steps there. For the highway department, you're rewarding longevity, or for your longevity, you're rewarding them up to 49 years. Most counties that we looked at with longevity pay cap longevity pay about 30 years of employment. So if the county would like to be more comparable to other counties, then it's recommended that you consider adjusting longevity pay steps and amounts to cap at 30 years of employment. Otherwise, continue the generous longevity pay program as a great benefit to the employees. It is noted that monies that are allocated to fund the longevity pay program could be dedicated to employee salaries. The last item of the internal findings was a commissioner salary benefit survey. It was requested that we look at and make a comparison of other full-time commissioner positions and salaries. It was reported that the Monroe County commissioners work a full-time schedule but are not compensated accordingly. So we did look at 6 other counties in Indiana that where they consider their county commissioners to be full-time. That included Allen, Elkhart, Hamilton, Lake, Tippecanoe, and Vigo. So here we've collected salary data and benefit data for the council to review, and we'll talk about that. We have a separate spreadsheet for that information. Page 15 and 16, this includes the comparative job classification structure. So this shows you, for instance, on page 15, the comment, what your current classification levels are, and what the proposed 2021 classification levels are in the point breakdown. So we've done that for each job grouping to show you the difference in how the points and then the retitling of each of those classification levels. On page 17, this is the kind of the summary of the external salary analysis. We used benchmark positions to conduct this external salary analysis. We've listed here the counties, cities, and compensation sources that were used to develop the external salary analysis. For each category, we've developed an external salary pay line. And this is a regression of all the data that was collected from all the entities surveyed and information we maintain in our internal database. And the methodology here reflects the use of the middle 80% of the data collected, eliminating the highest 10% and lowest 10%. So you get that strong internal or 80% average of all that data collected. Positions in the SO and elected officials, those were direct job match to the external market. The external midpoint is referring to your mean or average pay rate for all the jobs surveyed in the external market. So you will see this, Allison will highlight this on the pay plans, but you'll be able to see a comparison of all the positions to the external midpoint and the cost to move those positions to those rates. On page 18, we've got the summary of our FLSA review. First, we have defined what the, there were several department heads that weren't sure on what classification, what the definitions meant. So we've included the definitions for excluded, exempt, and non-exempt. Excluded employees include elected officials, their policy-making appointees, personal staff, and legal advisors. These employees are excluded from the FLSA and are not eligible or entitled to overtime compensation or comp time off under the regulations. Employees holding exempt positions must meet at least one of the tests for exemption under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And then these employees are excluded from those overtime requirements, and they're not entitled to receive overtime compensation or comp time off. And so they must meet one of the tests, the administrative, executive, or professional test under the regulations. Employees holding non-exempt positions, and whether they're paid hourly or salary, they are entitled to overtime or comp time off according to those provisions under the federal wage and hour laws. We found several instances of positions that were not classified correctly, and we have a list of those on page 19. I want to note to council that any position going from exempt to excluded, there's really no change in what the practice has been. They're still not eligible for overtime. It's just classifying them correctly in the appropriate category. One important note is for the official court reporters. They were being treated as FLSA exempt. Under the test, they do not meet those tests for exemption, but there was back in 2009, there was a full study on those, and it was based on a review was recommended to be excluded. So we've changed those to excluded status and included language in the job description that supports that FLSA status. During the process of this project, we did have some department heads that expressed a desire for the council to implement some sort of comp time for exempt and excluded positions. As I just stated, that under the strict FLSA regulations, these employees are not entitled to or eligible to receive overtime compensation or comp time. However, the county may adopt more generous overtime policies if it chooses. However, if this were something that the county were to consider, it would be recommended that you establish an overtime policy that's titled, non-FLSA comp time, and that it would be significantly different from the overtime practices and policies established for non-exempt employees. We have to be careful not to treat them as non-exempt, or that they will lose that exempt status. So you could establish, there's some different ways you can go about that. And if that's something the council is interested in, we'd be glad to assist in that part. Elements of a pay structure. We've listed the common elements of how a pay structure is constructed, looking at internal pay equity, making sure what the pay relationship is among like classified jobs, external pay equity, how does the pay compare to the external market? So questions to think about: where do you want employees to be paid in relation to the external market? What do we need to pay employees to attract and retain qualified employees and quality employees? Performance pay, pay linking to employee performance, longevity pay, you already have this, and then technical pay. This would be pay like a supplemental stipend for a technical specialty that is in addition to normal job duties. So it's not paying them for a certification that is required of the position, but maybe an added job function. A lot of times we will see this in sheriff departments where a deputy may take on added job functions as a field training officer or SWAT training or scuba training, those added functions that are above and beyond what's required of the job. So in conclusion, the information provided today in the pay plans will be a valuable tool to use for the council to use as a guide in setting pay and making pay adjustments going forward. And as we are well aware that annual raises and pay adjustments are always subject to the available revenue and the pay policies of the council. On page 21, we have provided some phase-in implementation options for the council to consider going forward. And just quickly go over those. Option 1, fund pay adjustments to the external market for all county positions over a 2-year period, funding 50% for budget year 2022, and then the remaining 50% in budget year 2023. A second option would be to fund pay adjustments to the external market for all positions over a 2 or 3 year period, capping those adjustments at a flat dollar amount. So, we're going to place all the employees on these grids, but your adjustment is capped at $5,000 or $4,000, whatever funds are available to the county. And the option 3 would be establishing the compensation grids at a percentage of the external midpoint salary and then funding that at 100%. Right now, the grids are set at the external market midpoint. So you could set those grids at 90% of the midpoint or 95% at a percentage you could fund 100%. And then on page 20, 21 and 22, again, we're stressing the maintenance of the job classification and compensation system. We're strongly recommending that the council establish and adhere to standardized maintenance procedures and pay policies. Strongly recommending that the council adopt a salary ordinance that memorializes the county council's job classification and maintenance policies and procedures. And on page 22, we've included some specific language that should be included in that salary ordinance, touching on your PAC committee or a subcommittee that will be overseeing this, job descriptions, how you're going to review those job descriptions, and then an annual wage and salary analysis of keeping the salaries up to date. And then last but not least, on the report part, as we've listed some areas where we can provide additional consultant assistance as needed, implementing the new classification compensation system, developing forms, policies, procedures, assisting with the job class and compensation maintenance, reviewing and updating job descriptions, factoring positions, conducting the annual salary analysis, and then just providing consultation as needed. Did you want me to move forward with the pay plans, or did you want me to take questions on the report? How did you want me to move forward?
I think, let me get a signal from counselors. Counselors, do you have questions at this point, or do you want to move ahead with the pay plan? Let's go ahead and do the pay plan, then we'll get to questions. And I just want to state, we've got about an hour and a half total for the meeting today and 2 other items. So just as counselors think about their questions and other items on the agenda, we'll keep that in mind and hear about the pay plan.
Okay. Okay, I was just checking the time, sorry. Okay. I'm just going to quickly kind of walk through the format of the compensation grids, and then Allison is going to go into more detail in the pay plans. So the compensation grids, as I mentioned, we've developed new grids based on the external midpoint salary data. And so, for example, I'm looking at the Comet pay grid. I just want to show you kind of how it's set up. We do have a separate grid for a 35-hour work week and a 40-hour work week. However, the hourly rates for each classification level remain the same, whether you're working the 35-hour or 40. So we start off with the minimum salary, and then we have a 1-year completion step, and then the 3-year completion step. That's where the midpoint is, and that's what will match up on the pay plans as your external midpoint. And that's the external pay line that I discussed in the report. And then then we have an 8-year completion step, a 14-year, a 20-year, and a 25. And as I mentioned, there's a 26.67% spread from your minimum salary to your 25-year completion salary. And all of the steps are built off of the midpoint. So quickly, for those, I know some of you are interested in how that is set up. The 1 year is 95% of the midpoint of the 3-year step, and then the minimum is 90% of the midpoint. And going up for the 8-year, that is a 4% above the midpoint, and then we have 8% above the midpoint for the 14-year step, 11% above the midpoint for your 20, and then for the last step, the 25-year step, it's 14% above the 3-year step, the midpoint. So that's how the grid was established, and all of the grids are set up in the exact same format. So you don't have to worry about some of the spreads being much larger or much smaller. So we're treating all the job categories the same as far as the spread. And we've set it up where I think in the same format that you're using now, so it's familiar as far as having the hourly rate, the biweekly based on 26 pays, and then the salary calculated at either the 1820 or the 2080 hours. The only one that is different, the civilian polls do have a grid for the 2145 annual hours. That's why I believe they're working in the jail. So there's an extra grid there. But other than that, they're all set up the same. And then we have placed all the employees on the grids in the pay plans and costed that out for you according to their steps. So Allison will go into more detail there for you.
All righty. So the first pay plan that we're going to look at is Comet. So this first pay plan, I'm going to take a little more time to go in detail just so you know exactly what you're looking at and there's no confusion. So we have, for the Comet, we have 4 levels. Comet A is 235 points and below. Comet B is 240 to 340 points. Comet C is 345 to 495 points. And Comet D is 500 points and above. So we have that listed out by department and then by their job title. Please keep in mind that the job title is what either we have recommended, what departments have wanted the title changed to be. So just keep that in mind when looking at that. Also their hire dates. And their current step or level. When we were looking at these and trying to compare them to their 2021 salary, we saw some differences. So I actually sent all of the jobs to Kim one more time for her to update that current step or level to make sure that we were accurately looking at that, because sometimes it differed from their hire date. So we just want to make sure that was accurate. We've also included their 2021 salary, their annual work hours, and then our recommendation for the FLSA status. As Addie said in the report, there were some that were correctly classified for their right status. So that is our recommendation for those. Next block is the external analysis. So we have created that external midpoint hourly rate. That will be consistent for everyone within their level. So all of comment A has the same hourly rate, but it will differ depending on how many hours they work. We have accounted for that. And then we have also put the cost to the external midpoint salary. So that number that you're seeing there is the difference based off of their 2021 salary and the external midpoint salary. So you can see the difference in that. And then the next block is that compensation grid option. Obviously, we just went over that, but that first level there is a proposed step or level. So this includes that 20 and 25 year and no maximum, because the county wanted to get rid of in-grade supervisors. So you'll see that there. And then also I wanted to put in which, if the person is working the 35-hour work week or the 40-hour work week, just to show if two people are, they're on that 8th step, but one's working 35 and one's 40, you can see why those annual salaries differ. And then we've also put that grid salary with that grid hourly rate, and then the cost to place them on the grid. So we give you two different options there if you want to go with the external salary or if you want to go with the grid salary. Let's see. So there are a total of 154 comment positions. 4 out of those 154 positions are at or above the external midpoint. The comment positions do lag behind the external market rate by that 8.34%. You will see that under the external block. And so that percent increase, it's the total cost that's right above it divided by that total 2021 salary. So that's how we get that number. One position is at or above the grid placement and will not come in for a salary adjustment. So if you were to place everyone on the proposed grid, the total cost would be $486,130.41 with a percent increase of 10.78 above the current 2021 salaries. 10 comment positions have that 20 plus years of service and 35 positions have the 14 plus years of service. So we wanted to point this out to show you that adding the 20 and 25 year level would be beneficial to the county and to your employees. Okay, the next pay plan that we're going to look at is LTC. So LTC has 4 classification levels as well, and it's set up just like the comment one. So that's why I wanted to take a little bit of time to go over the comment. That way you know exactly what you're looking at. The only difference is the current step/level or years of service column. According to the 2021 salary ordinance, the union highway positions have a 14 step based off the years of service. So like Addie said earlier, we classified all union positions to show where they would fall with all the other positions, just to give you that visual and to ensure pay equity. There is a total of 58 LTC positions. The LTC positions do lag behind the external market by 7.45%. 4 out of the 58 positions are at or above the external midpoint, but keep in mind that all 4 of those positions have 20 plus years of service. 6 out of 58 positions are at or above the grid placement salary. 7 LTC positions do have 20 plus years of service, and 10 positions have 14 plus years of service. The total cost to place all positions on the grid would be $148,371.07, with an increase of 6.9% above the current 2021 salaries. 34 of the 58 positions have 3 years or less of service, which is actually 59% of the total positions. So we just wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, the next one is the PAT category for the spreadsheets. There are 4 classification levels as well, and the spreadsheet is set up just like the comment one. There are 136 PAT positions, and there is actually only 1 position paid at or above the external midpoint. PAT positions lag behind that external market by 9.12%. Total cost to put everyone on the grid would be $652,179.61, with a total percent increase of 11.9%. So this one is probably your biggest one to look at. 21 positions have that 20 plus years of service, and 39 positions have that 14 plus years of service. So they really would benefit from adding that 20 and 25 year level to your grids. Okay, next one is civilian poll. Okay, so this one has 5 classification levels. The spreadsheet is set up like the comment one, except again for that current step or level and years of service. According to the salary ordinance, correctional officers, sergeants, and captains of the jail receive a raise each year up to 20 years, that 48 cents each year. So there are 92 civilian poll positions, 21 positions that are at or above the external midpoint, but 18 of those 21 positions are the jail positions that receive that 48-cent year raise. So it makes sense as to why they are like that. There are 15 positions that are at or above the grid salary, and again, all of those are jail positions. Civilian poll positions are lagging behind the market by 5.9%. The total cost to place everyone on the salary grid would be $214,475.55, with a 5.43% increase from the 2021 salaries. 4 positions have that 20 plus years of service, and 14 positions with 14 plus years of service. Okay, moving on to merit poll. There are 3 levels for this category with 39 poll positions. As you can see, the current salaries are in line with the external market, so we applaud you for making that move. And only 8 positions are below the external market, with 3 of those being like new hires or just with 1 year of service. The merit positions only lag the market less than 1%. It's 0.43% behind, and it'll only be a 2% increase to place them on the grid. There are 17 positions at or above the grid salary. So again, this is evident that the merit positions are in line with the external market. And so again, we applaud the council for getting them to that point. Okay, next we have executive. Again, these are your department heads. There's only 2 classification levels with a total of 14 positions. Only 4 positions have less than 14 years experience. So this category, again, will really benefit from that 20 and 25 year level on your grids. The positions lag behind the external market just by a little over 1%. With 3 positions just being behind the external market. So they are on track as well. Only 2 positions are at or above the grid placement. So the total cost to put everyone on the grid would be $60,883.59, with a percent increase of 5.74 from the 2021 total salaries. Okay, the next one would be the SO attorney. So like Addie said, this is a new category for the county. These positions were pulled from the executive. And there are 3 levels, and we have prepared definitions / criteria for each level. So I'll just quickly go over that. In order to be in this category in general, you have to be a licensed attorney and a member of the Indiana Bar. And the job functions require a law degree. So if you do not have any of that, then you will not be put in this category. And then the difference in levels, there's different criteria, but mainly it's based off so the years of service required. So level A, you have to have a minimum of 0 to up to 12 years. Level B, you have to have a minimum of 5 years experience. And then level C, they're the ones supervising level A or level B, and then they have to have a minimum of 10 years experience. So that's kind of the criteria that we came up for those positions. There are a total of 33 positions. 14 of those 33 are at or above the external market. The attorney positions lag the market just by 2.75%. So the total cost to place all the positions on the grid would be $102,359.69, with a percent increase of 4.5% of the total 2021 salaries. 5 positions have that 20 plus years of service, and 10 with that 14 plus years of service. And again, we're trying to get rid of that in-grade supervisor. So I know a couple of them may have been at a maximum, but you'll see that change in level for the 2021, the proposed level change. Okay, so next is all of our SO positions. The first one you'll see are all of the chief deputies. And we like to provide normally 2 different options for those since they are special. So external option 1, the salary is based off of 90% of the 2021 Monroe County elected officials salary. And then external 2 is 90% of the average of the elected officials salary, the external part. So as you will see, both options will give a salary increase for 3 positions, and then 3 positions won't receive an increase. The chief deputies compare well to the market. So again, we applaud you for that. So the clerk and treasurer, they're consistent in that they would not receive that raise, but then the auditor and the coroner differentiate depending on what option you would choose. And then these are all direct job matches. And then for the coroner deputy, that external range that we give you, it's 10% down and 15% up from that external midpoint that we give you. And so the coroner deputies are right within that external range. And then for that back page, these are all of the positions that are considered SO positions. They were outliers in any of the other job categories, so that's why we have them here. Again, that external range is 10% down, 15% up from that external midpoint. And just pointing out that IVD commissioner is the only one above the market range. So the percent increase would be that 10.28%. Okay. The next one is SO probation. This one's a little bit different, like Addie had said in the report. All probation officers must be paid according to that minimum salary schedule, which we have provided that 2022 schedule in your packet. So we did not provide external information because it's all based off of that, but we did want to show you all the positions that are considered probation officers and their FLSA statuses and their work hours. So we just wanted to provide you with that. Okay, last but not least, we have the elected officials spreadsheet. So these again are direct job matches. These are the counties that we used in our external analysis, showing Monroe counties, all of their elected official salaries, and then giving you an average salaries of all the external plus that external salary range. I do want to point out that the range is comprised of the lowest salary and the highest salary. So this is not a 10% down, 15% up. It's just the lowest to the highest. And we just want to point out, some surveyors are registered and some coroners may be a licensed physician. So that's all that is. Just wanted to notate that. Okay, I'll stop there for a second and see if anyone has any questions or anything for those.
Do you want to hit the benefits survey real quick?
Oh, we can. I was going to do the cost summary and then the benefits.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
He wants to get through.
Okay, sure. So sorry. Okay, so we'll go through the cost summary of basically everything I just said. So this is a summary of all the salaries and the percent increases. So the total cost to move everyone to the external midpoint, if we were just going to do that, would be $1,436,648.35. But then moving everyone to the grid would be $1,711,312.55. So again, that's just a, yeah, and then the percentage increase for the external midpoint would be 6.33%, and then the percent increase for the grid would be 7.55%. Okay, we'll just keep chugging along because I know we're getting close on time. So Addie did mention the commissioners and the benefit survey. So that next spreadsheet, that's just showing what we've done there. The average external salary for full-time commissioners is $64,463. And then as you can see, the rates vary for employee contribution and county contribution for single and family plans. That's just showing what your plans are versus what everyone else's are. All counties do provide health insurance to commissioners and council members. And for NPERS, half of the counties have employees pay that 3% contribution and the other half pay it themselves. I did get confirmation that Monroe does pay the entire contribution of 14.2%. Okay, and then the next spreadsheet, I won't go into detail for it, but we were asked to provide a list of all the changes that were made during this project. So the column with the most changes is going to be the title column. It's very overwhelming with how many title changes were made. But the titles that we recommended to be updated are marked with a little asterisk. And so our recommendations were either to help accurately describe the position or, help the department head if they didn't know what to call it. Or we just wanted to be in line with current job description titles. And so this list will help ensure that the 2022 salary ordinance will match the current job descriptions, just to give a little help there. And then last but not least for me is the maintenance plan. I know we've harped on this quite a bit during the report, so I just want to give you an outline of what this states. So following this maintenance plan is contingent upon adopting the job descriptions and classification system, and I will provide an ordinance to adopt for you, and also this maintenance plan. The plan is developed to ensure the job classification system is kept up to date and useful. It is a critical tool in preserving this system. Without it, the class and comp studies have to be done. So the components of the plan is who should be on this job class and compensation committee and what the responsibilities are. The occasions when a job description should be reviewed. The timeline of when requests can be made. So we currently have that as January through April, but council, you are allowed to change that if you would like. That is up to your discretion. Procedures for reclass of a position or reorganization of an office, procedures for adding a new position, and then recruitment and hiring. So that's a very fast overview of what is in there, but I just wanted to give you an outline of what it does say. And so that is it for me. But now if you have questions, you're more than welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for the thoroughness of information that you've taken us all through. I know that is a challenge, and we don't make it easy on you by saying there might be some future time obstacles. Before we jump into questions from PAC members, I want to restate something I said earlier and maybe even expand it a little bit. This is a lot. You have done a lot of work, along with all the department heads, elected officials, and county employees that work towards providing you this information. We are exceedingly grateful for that. Better informed in our jobs on all things makes us better at our jobs, which I know you know. There is no action we are taking today. I'm saying that not for our consultants that are here, but really for everyone. This is a lot to absorb. In a moment, we'll go to PAC questions. I also would envision us capturing any question that comes about from department heads, elected officials, county employees, as a result of the information here that we're all going to be pouring through over the next few weeks, couple days, et cetera, trying to figure all this out. And with that, I'm going to jump over to PAC member questions. Any questions from members of PAC? Councilor Spoonmore.
Thank you, sir. And thanks to our WIST representatives. This is very informative. Appreciate all the information. I'm hesitant to get into a lot of questions at this point because I still want to, really kind of absorb all this information. I know that our county leaders, other elected officials, employees probably have a lot of questions as well too. And I just want to check with Ms. Shell and perhaps Ms. Rice. Is this report and information available to our employees at this point? Is that, and how will that work?
My plan, since I didn't receive it until late, and it wasn't included in the packet, was after this meeting, it will be distributed to all department heads. And then with that being distributed, have them review it and forward any questions or concerns that they have at that time to me, so that when we meet again, PAC-wise or council-wise at a work session, that we will have all of their questions, and then we can work with WIS or with you guys on who needs to answer.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan to me. Thank you.
Councilor Hawk, you had a question.
Yes, in response to Michelle's answer there, I think it's very important that those questions come as well to PAC members as we receive them, not like wait 2 weeks and then give them all to us at once, so that we can be looking at it and giving this some consideration. And maybe there might even be something where it would be available to all, so that, because they may all have, departments might have the same type of question. The other thing that I didn't see an answer on, something that many of us have thought about, is the fact that we do reward numbers of years served for the county, even if they change from total job descriptions where there might be a totally different type of job. So then they move to another job, a brand new job description, something they've never done before, but they might walk in that door and make more money than the person who's already been there 5 years or 10 years. And so I think that's something we need to give some consideration to. I don't know the answer to it, but I think that we know that we could run into a problem with that. I appreciate this report, and I regret that we have to say that we neglected to follow the rules. I will just have to say that many of us tried going kicking and screaming, saying, no, that's not the way it worked. But it did us no good. It takes a number of votes to get anything through, but I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And tell Kent I said hello.
Will do, Marty.
I had a follow-up question I wanted to ask our consultants. Your contention is, and you, by the way, the fact that people are not asking a lot of detailed questions right now mean that you've taken us through a lot of details, and we always appreciate that. It means we got to do our studying. But my question for you is, your contention is, if you just adopt a change today, that will not take care of the issues that some of the issues at least that you have found, that maintenance and diligent maintenance and intentional maintenance is key, not only to support the council's statutory function under Indiana law, but really to support what our elected officials, our departments really need to do their jobs well, and having good people, taking good care of good people, and having parity among all that. Is that the narrative I'm hearing from you today?
Yes, that's the overriding theme today, is really focusing on the maintenance and in the past, as I stated, the process has been selective and haphazardly followed. So having consistent procedures, following those, enforcing those, and making department heads, elected officials follow those procedures and taking ownership of the classification system, I think will create more consistency and eliminate some of these discrepancies and things, these internal issues that have arisen from over time.
And I guess the one follow-up I had is, I know department heads, elected officials, they get a message from, here's what council needs, or my heavens, they want that, or there's this requirement, and that doesn't necessarily run a counter, that they're dealing with the public, serving the public, et cetera. Is it your contention that by getting this in an organized way, in a methodical, easier way for elected officials and department heads in the county, that it'll actually make those things easier because less of this is guess or confusion, or you're on your own on this and this doesn't have parity? Okay.
Yes, and having all the information official and one person maintaining it, like the job description. So if a department head, hey, what's my, where's my job description for this position? If they misplace it, there's one, and we don't have to worry about 2 or 3 different versions of job descriptions floating around. Because I think job titles and the FLSA status, there was a lot of confusion early on in this project because of that. And I think that can be eliminated and make life easier for department heads going forward.
Thank you. Councilor Hawk, you had a question?
Yes, I would like to make it very clear to department heads or employees who might be listening as well, that while we appreciate getting this, and we see what the dollar amount that's suggested might take it to get us to whatever is being stated here, once again, it all comes down to, is there money to do that? And so I wouldn't want anyone looking at this to assume that suddenly they will get a raise or whatever. I also have seen many instances where people come forward, departments come forward, and they ask PAC, which really, it seems to me it's more a council decision than a PAC decision, to take that employee from 35 hours to 40 hours. And it's very clear, the whole point is that that's a way to get their employees a raise. We see that often, I believe. But that seems to me is a financial decision and should just be going to the council. Is that how our direction is or not? I'm asking Allison.
I mean, I would agree with that because it is a financial decision. So I would strictly just take that to council versus PAC. At the end of the day, that's your decision, not ours.
Yeah, as a reminder, the council sets the pay, and the number of hours are tied to the pay.
Right.
So you're classifying positions, approving those job descriptions, and approving the number of hours worked and the number and the salary tied to that.
Right, and that's a council decision. I'm just trying to decide and give direction to the department heads whether or not they come to us if they just want to add extra hours.
Yes.
And we have been told for years that was a financial decision that should go to the council as a whole, but maybe we misunderstood differently.
Yeah, I think it should still be brought to council because one, it's going to take a salary ordinance amendment because you've designated in your salary ordinance whether the position is working at 1820 schedule or 2080 schedule. So we still need to come through approval. Nothing would really change on the job description or the classification, but it would result in a change to your salary ordinance.
And
can I comment on that as well? That is absolutely a council decision, and PAC obviously meets to make recommendations to the whole council, but those decisions would need to go to the council. I'd like to also point out, for the benefit of PAC and the department heads that are on this call, there are some job description changes, and you'll see it reflected in the compensation schedules, where perhaps an educational requirement has been changed. There's an example, one where there's, a bachelor degree currently required for the position and the job description as amended, the department head is asking for an advanced degree. That is also a council decision to make. As the council gets to describe the job, we're currently living with a bachelor degree. Whether or not the council feels they can pay for the additional education that, that would have, you can see on the compensation schedule, it's about a $23,000 difference. The council may say, we'd love to do that, but we can't afford, or we don't want to put $23,000 there because we need this $23,000 over here. Just because a description is described and presented to you as having this educational requirement, that's one thing that the council is going to need to look at. And when you see a big discrepancy and see an educational change, you're going to have to make a conscious decision. Yes, I want to adopt this job description with this change, or I don't because we can't afford or don't want to pay that price tag. So those are the kinds of things that Wagner Erwin Sheely has highlighted for you to take a look at so that you can make conscious decisions about which way you want to go. And as Trent pointed out earlier in this, there's a lot of information here. So I'm going to advise the council to PAC members to take a look at it, for every council member to look at it, to talk to the department heads with which they serve, and then try to wrap our heads around where we're going.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rice. Councilor Spoonmore.
Yes, thanks. And also just a question for WIS as well. As you were doing your analysis and going through all of this information and developing the findings and recommendations for us, is there anything in this report right now that you think requires immediate or urgent attention from the council?
Probably the FLSA status would be the first thing I would look at. There are a few that would be going from exempt to non-exempt. So we want to make sure that they are being properly compensated if they are working overtime. And that, I would say, looking at those would be the priority.
Okay, great. And then just another observation. I was particularly struck by the information and findings on the financial positions and kind of how our model is here in Monroe County compared to some other, the rest of the counties in the state. And so I think it'll be important that we have continued discussions about that. I want to hear from our departments and other county leaders on their thoughts about this as well too. But just for our PAC president, I think this is something that we should continue to discuss. And for me as council president, I think it's very important that we take a look at this.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm seeing an end to those questions, and we are grateful for our consultants' time. Again, we're not taking action. We do have 2 more items that we need to move on to. But again, I want to thank Wagner Erwin Sheely and our presenters for doing all this work, presenting with this. This information will get out, as Michelle said, to department heads and elected officials. And there's a lot to look at, a lot to consider. But we are better informed now than when the meeting started at noon. And that's our goal every day. So thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Be in touch.
We appreciate it. We're going to move on to item number 3 on our agenda. And I appreciate department heads waiting through this, but good things that we're trying to get through today. We have a request to move a position from part-time to full-time in the highway department. I see our director, Miss Lisa Ridge, is here. Miss Ridge, we will hear from you.
Good afternoon. I will try and make this as brief as possible. I know I sent a narrative. We've had a part-time position. This position has been there since before me, so more than 34 years. We have a retired employee in this position at this time that was actually a union member. He has been tremendous. However, we can only work him 28 hours a week. He is able to go investigate things when we need something investigated. A lot of times the public will call in and state that it's an emergency and we need to address it. And then we find out if we pull somebody off a crew, it's not an emergency. We could utilize this person as running equipment on the lot because he still has his CDL license. He also goes and picks up dead deers. He mows, he takes care of the grounds at the highway garage. He plows the parking lot in the winter. He runs the sweeper, he cleans the bathrooms. He's just a good, what we would call a maintenance technician for our highway garage. Again, we've had the position for part-time for 30 plus years, and we would like to make this a full-time position. So if you have any questions about it, please let me know. I believe our budget can completely support this increase from moving it to full-time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ridge. Questions from PAC members or comments? Yeah, Ms. Hawk.
Yes. Maybe not just particularly this position, but just in general. As much as possible, I would like to see some of these departments that's tied to their revenue that's maybe not going to be the same as revenue for the rest of the county. We know the highway is connected directly to their revenue that comes in having to do with gas tax and so forth. So my suggestion would be that in every way possible, we wait until that time frame when the city decides whether or not to move forward with annexation and how much, so that we can be looking at what your future projections might be. That's, certainly not going to be my decision, but I think it is the cautious way to move forward.
Thank you very much.
Well,
any other comments?
I appreciate Ms. Hawk's remarks there, and curious if Ms. Ridge had any response.
And I totally respect Marty's opinion. I always have. However, Highway Department hasn't grown in 30 plus years. Sure, we've added on a stormwater division. We have a bridge crew. Stormwater has grown. Bridge crew has grown by 1 in the 30 plus years I've been here. To my knowledge, we have not added a position in at least, I'll say 25 years. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say 25 years. Our mileage has grown every single year up until the last 10 years before that. We never, ever increased the employees. I hate to base everyday decisions on the annexation due to running a department. I know it wouldn't take effect for 2 years, and granted, I get that, but our work doesn't stop. We will still, if the annexation goes through, we've added that it'll take 82.5 miles of our inventory. What that bottom number is, I don't know that anybody can totally calculate that. It's our intentions. I think we had asked to fill 2 full-time positions in the last month. We didn't hear a response back, so we took it that we are allowed to do that. But we still have a couple open positions to stay open until we can get through that annexation talk. But the departments, and to be perfectly honest, I don't want to lose this employee. I consider it a compliment that a retired employee of 30 plus years wanted to come back to work as a part-time basis. He will not be able to continue to stay without benefits just because. So he works for us part-time, he works for the school system part-time. We would love to build this this position into full-time, even after this person is gone. It is just something that has benefited our department. Again, for the mowing, we're not having to take it from our road crews. We're not having to take it from our management crews to be on a lawnmower, or our mechanics, and that's what we've had to do. So making this a full-time position, I wouldn't be doing it if I thought it was going to hurt us in the long run, I guess. I think I'm very cautious of moving forward. I know with all the annexation talks, but again, we're not going away. And I have no problem of not filling the full staff until the annexation discussions are completed.
And by the way, I'm certainly not indicating 2 years. We can't just stop working and doing our jobs for 2 years. I'm talking about a month. But that's just my thought, because I want to make sure that we're putting out the message that that we understand that we would see a major or could be a reduction in our revenue that we count on to work and operate our highway crew.
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody needs to be thinking, hey, we're going to skate through this. And that's my concern. I want to make sure that we are fully aware, because we can't make it up with other revenue.
Well, can I ask a question? Mr. President, can I ask?
Please.
Is this something that would require a PAC's recommendation to go to council, or can we just, forward it on with no recommendation? I'm not saying that I do or I don't support it, but is this something that requires our recommendation before council can consider it? I think we can just get it on the council agenda.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good that we have a heads up here with PAC, and I appreciate that. But I don't know that we need to issue a formal recommendation on more of a fiscal matter than anything.
I don't think so, Councilmember Spoonmore. That's kind of what I was indicating earlier when I was discussing this with us. I don't think that this is a PAC decision.
And I apologize for that. I thought this was the process. So.
And I know, I'm sorry. I just don't think.
Well, I'll move that we just.
Wait, I have a question. Do you have a formal job description for this position? Because if we don't, we have to go and have one created.
We created it through the WIS job descriptions.
So is it a part-time position created, or is it a?
It was a part-time position created at the time last fall.
Would there be any changes that would need to be done moving it to a full-time?
No.
Okay, that was my question. Sorry.
And has that job description been formally approved by council?
No,
I don't think so. I think it's part of this WIS package.
Okay.
Oh.
And I believe in her recommendation was for the council, their recommendation was to approve all the job descriptions. So I guess if I would have heard maybe different in that, then I'm to assume that it was approved on WIS end.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss a step with regards to the job description. So,
and if I can speak to that, and I'm not contradicting, I don't think what Lisa said. Just remember, WIS has described the jobs as the department heads have recommended to them. So just like that one I told you where there's a jump from a bachelor degree to an advanced degree, that's what the department head is recommending and saying they want. Whether the council says that's what I want or not, we don't know yet, because the council will have to look at those and decide that's what they want. That's similar to this one. So I think if you want to send this to the council and get the council's input, again, is this where we can spend our dollars? Does this make sense in context of the overall plan, the WIS plan, and in the context of annexation? I think that's totally appropriate. If you guys feel like I want to talk about this with the whole council, that would be absolutely appropriate.
So I guess my question is, do we need to vote to send it to council then, Ms. Rice, with no recommendation? All right.
I'll move that we forward this request to council without a PAC recommendation.
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute. Yes, yes, I would recommend that you vote on that.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
And the motion is to send it forward with no recommendation.
Correct.
And I second it.
There's a second. We're going to open a discussion. And I actually want to make a discussion point if I can. I generally looking at this, I see no issue. I do appreciate the comments that have been made about concerns around annexation. But I will also note the following. I've been planted on a Zoom camera now for over a year and a half, and I actually am starting to believe that that is going to have a larger fiscal impact on this community, the state, the nation, the world, maybe than anything. I think there's a number of things that are going to come up that we always have to think about. I don't see this position as where the water goes over the bridge, which Miss Ridge knows a lot about, that kind of a headache. So I think that we got to keep breathing and moving and doing things. We have to be diligent, but that's been that way for 200 plus years in this county. So we've got a motion and a second. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a roll call.
Councillor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Councillor Hawk,
Yes.
Councillor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you very much, Ms.
So
Ridge.
we'll get that on an upcoming council agenda here soon, Ms. Ridge.
Okay, so I will just wait to hear from council representatives.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
That's what my next question was, what, do you want this on a regular or a work session, Councillor Spoonmore?
I'll need to think about it. Lisa, I'll be in touch and we can kind
That's
of
fine.
figure out when works
Yep.
best for you, okay?
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have item B from the Health Department, Administrative Assistant, and I did see Penny Cottle here, and there she is. Ms. Cottle, did you want to speak to this request?
Yes, can you hear me okay? I've lost so great, thank you. This is actually in preparation for the 2022 budget, as opposed to anything that's an immediate request. So as we've been looking at our budget and staffing needs, tried to reassess and find a way not to add a completely new position. We know that we could use some additional help with vital records and other things. So in talking with staff and our board, what we really would like to do is take our administrative assistant position, which is part-time, does have a newly formed job description, but it is part-time. And make it full-time starting in 2022 in that budget. We feel like that would provide the backup and the assistance to our vital records staff if somebody's out on vacation, if they're at a conference, if they're just backed up. It can also help in terms of sort of that bridge between our financial person and the administrator, but also recognizing that administrative assistants are kind of that backbone, and having someone who has history and thoroughly understands the job and all the tasks that we're doing will help with succession planning, whether it's in these new manager positions or in the administrator position when that succession is needed. So we're trying to think ahead. We know that part-time staff, while they can be wonderful, we're pleased with the person that we have right now, but they will not be here long-term, and we know that. So having a lot of turnover every year or two does make it difficult to get them the depth of this job and what we really need. We have a lot of tasks that are done annually. So to be able to have to retrain somebody to do that every year and a half or 2 years at most becomes very, very difficult. So it's hard to master something when you do it once a year and maybe you've done it twice. So that's why we are asking if we can put this we want to put it in the 2022 budget, and we understand that we don't have a full-time job description for it. We only have a part-time. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we are asking today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cottle. I'll open it up for questions or comments from PAC members. Councillor Hawk.
Yes, I believe our direction had been for a long time, maybe we've changed our direction, but we were supposed to be getting this list of things like Ms. Cottle's asking for new positions or growth in positions, and have a list of those so that we can look at what it would cost to add these positions on for full-time, so we can get a total of what that's going to cost, and then have to do a pick and choose kind of a thing. Now that's the way it had been set up, rather than just hit and miss and have it included in the budgets. And then once you start voting on these budgets, it gets sort of like in the mix. So.
And that's fine. We would still just need a full-time job description for you to be able to have that information.
Right. So Michelle, the job description that's there, is it totally cover what is needed, what Ms. Cottle's asking for, or will that job description need to change other than just the hours?
That would need to be a penny call, because if it needs to be updated or changed in order to accommodate the one that's on file currently is with WIS is part-time.
I just went over it and it should cover everything. I can certainly go back over it just to one more time to make sure.
And I also want to ask Councilor Hawk, I'm not sure I understand what you mean by the fiscal thing, because normally I don't do fiscal things for PAC. I do that for council as a whole. So are you, so I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you're asking.
I think I understood what Ms. Hawk was saying, and I think in the budget guidance that had been sent out from the council office, it was requested that special one-time kind of requests or unique requests from departments would be collected by the council office, which I know Kim is doing now, and getting all those into one place, kind of separate from the other budget requests. So I think, and maybe this is something that we would add into that listing, Kim. And
I did not, because you specify, I thought it was for anything supplies or services related. I didn't take it as personnel. So that was not.
Do you know if maybe we need to go through whatever the workbooks and see if there's any new personnel requests as well. And I would consider those as, kind of a one-time unique request.
Okay. And I can do that. They're just now starting to come in. Yeah. So I can't give you any totals or requests at this.
That's fine.
Okay.
But I think also we can probably get, for Ms. Caudill, we can get the job description in front of PAC at the next meeting, get that wrapped up and sent over to council. And then we can just make this as part of the budget request if it's approved.
It should have been included in the packet.
Yeah.
We've got it, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and we want to vote on that.
That's the one. It's a part-time one that's already submitted to WIS. So it will be approved as a whole with all the others.
We've got it. Yeah, it's
as long as Ms. Caudill is okay with that job description for this, I'm happy to vote on it.
Yeah, it starts on page 18.
We don't need to make any changes to it.
The only thing we would need to make a change on is moving it from part-time to full-time. And then that way I would have to let WIS know so they can update their records.
Okay. This doesn't seem a whole lot different from what we just did with the highway.
Well, and I was going to mention that, so what, you're not approving one, but you're going to approve the other. So
we can forward this one on to council without a recommendation as well.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to forward this on to council without a recommendation, but for their consideration. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call a roll call vote.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Spinmore,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes,
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Cottle. All right, that takes us to item number 4. The approval of summary minutes is presented in the packet for June 1st, 2021. Any,
Approval of summary minutes as presented.
there's been a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes,
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Spinmore.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously.
thank you very much. And finally, any comments from PAC members? Seeing none, I appreciate everyone's patience through this long meeting, but we got good information. We'll see you next time, and this meeting is adjourned.